it's good morning to Sara Mansour, the co-founder of the Bankstown Poetry Slam, the Bard of Bankstown, a great friend of ours, and one of the great creative talents of Sydney, particularly Southwest Sydney. Sara, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, we're doing these online interviews largely as a result of living through the pandemic that we are. There's you, like everybody in Sydney's had to endure this. Unlike most people in Sydney, you have a creative expression form when these sort of things happen. Little Birdie tells me you might have maybe penned a bit of spoken word poetry about the pandemic, and it might be a nice way to kick off and maybe set the tone for us to have a little chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Little Birdie relayed correct information to you, so I'm happy to do that.
Why don't I get out of your way, let you go for it, and we'll have a chat when you're done.
Okay, sure. The rupture sundered us in a way that I cannot begin to explain, other than to say I will never look at toilet paper the same way again. The rupture crept up on us, and we, fleshy and full of ego, we wanted the autumn sun so bad. I will never look at the beach the same way again. The rupture was a coronation, crowned grocery workers and nurses, teachers and truck drivers, royalty, kings and queens. And we, it made us kneel. It made us pray for the first time in a while. And when it is all done, we will emerge from our cocooned homes beautiful and full of mercy. The bins will be full of unlucky lottery tickets. Until then, the parks wait with bated breath for the ruckus of children and their skinned knees. The gyms ache from loneliness. The pubs are dusting off their glasses in anticipation. Humans in all their wonder and peculiarity and hope will go back to taking freedom for granted. But I will never forget the rupture or look at toilet paper the same way again.
That was fantastic. So in poetry, slam form a click rather than clap.
Click.
That was just great. That's the first time I felt almost a romantic links towards the pandemic. An ode to pandemic, the rupture. How beautiful was that? Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. For those of you out there who don't understand poetry slam, spoken word poetry as an art form, I might ask you to talk about it, but let me do a little ad for you. Once a month on the last Tuesday of each month, down at the Bankstown Art Centre, you can turn up and listen to Sara's band of many balladeers, young kids from across the region, and some not so young kids who find their voice, stand up in front of a crowd and speak about what makes them speak. That for those fully uninitiated, think of hip-hop music without the backtrack, just the lyrics.
Exactly.
And it is quite a remarkable experience, a volunteer experience set up largely by some Western Sydney Uni students and many others now the largest poetry slam in Australia. And I think Sara has almost eclipsed her friend and my friend and co-patron of the slam, Brian Brown, as the best creative product to come out of Bankstown. You don't yet have an Emmy or an AM, but we're working on both for you. So Sara, maybe you might take, many of our partners have seen you and Bilal and many others from the slam perform at different events. We've taken a few people out to Bankstown as well. Maybe you might just explain to those the origins of poetry slam and as an art form and why it's particularly found a home so much in Bankstown and Southwest Sydney.
Yeah, sure. So I think poetry as a performative art form has been around for many hundreds of years. It traces back to ancient Greece, and there are also links to parts of Arabia and the Ottoman Empire where people would have like a poetry battle of sorts. And modern poetry slam found its home in the States. And so people started to kind of get up and instead of, exactly like you said, hip hop without the music. So I think it started off with, there were heaps of poetry readings And then people said, hey, this is kind of getting a bit boring. Let's spice it up a little bit. And so then you had people performing a poem and really feeling the poem and performing it for an audience. And that's kind of how it started. And then, a slam was born whereby people would get together each month and start to compete. So there was that competitive element with the poetry performances. And the performances, of course, would be judged. And you'd have winners, and then suddenly there's slams competing against other slams. There's nationwide competitions, and so in Bankstown, when myself and Ahmad first started more than 7 years ago, we were attracted to poetry, I think, because it allowed us to speak on our own terms and to be creative with limited resources, really. And when we first started, there were no poetry slams in Western Sydney, and we kind of decided, being young and really doe-eyed, hey, let's just start one for fun.
Let's do this.
Yeah, let's just do it. And you don't really think
what a success it's been.
Yeah.
What amazing success. And in addition to the performance, you also run education programs, don't you, for the kids across the region? So it's taken on more than just an entertainer level. But
absolutely. Yeah. When it first started, we had no idea what we were doing, really. We didn't know about risk. We didn't know about insurance. We didn't know about managing a community organisation. We literally were two kids that said, oh, this is really fun. Let's do this. And it was a gap that was there in the community. And so I think a lot of people in Western Sydney became attracted to this because it's people in a region who have been often sidelined and silenced and now have an opportunity to reclaim their narrative. And that was really valuable and is a really valuable tool for young people, but especially young people from Western Sydney to be able to access. And so, like you said, we've gone on to have educational programs, gone and done outreach in schools, and really tried to equip young people in West Sydney with these tools of expression and creativity so that they can reclaim their narrative as well.
And another little birdie tells me that maybe some of that creative expression might soon find a home in the new Western Sydney Uni campus at Bankstown itself, which would be fantastic if that comes off.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Bankstown Arts Centre has been a home, but we've kind of outgrown it a little bit. And it would be really nice to have a great space that can accommodate these world-class performers.
Performance and administration, I think, even right next to the Brian Brown Theatre. So the two bards of Bankstown can sit astride it, right there, and just be give expression to the city, which is just fantastic. So congratulations to both. If that comes off, that'll be great, and be nice considering the Western Sydney Uni partnership that's been there. People like James Arvanatakis and I have been partnering on that Grand Slam, and I know a lot of the young performers have come out of the university, so that's a fantastic outcome. So congratulations. Hey, we've been through. You're also just you're proud some women in South West Sydney. We're just coming through both the pandemic time with Ramadan. Now, considering the essential social gathering is Ramadan, particular religious expression that after fasting every night people come together to eat and eat and everything we hope it's only a once in a lifetime event, and the combination of the two. Maybe talk us through some of the expression that happened during that period, how you're able to celebrate Ramadan considering the constraints of the pandemic.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I think that the way that we celebrate Ramadan is not the way that, I guess it's meant to be observed. So culturally, we get together, we eat our hearts out, we pass out in a food coma, we get up, we have some more ice cream, and it's a really rich kind of experience where you're constantly with other people and, you're eating off shared plates and there's a really huge sense of community. And this year it was more introspective. It was more, stay in your own home and reflect and try and connect some other way with the month. And so I think a lot of people found that instead of having these huge gatherings, they were instead focusing more on the essence of the month, which I think was really nice. And for a lot of people, it was kind of a reprieve from the way that we've experienced some of the past. Yeah, so it's just
food coma is such a wonderful concept. I'm thinking back to your poem, and while I don't care much for the beaches, I'm a Parramatta boy. I'm pretty keen on the footy. And did I mention the footy? Did I mention the Eels poster behind? I think your passion's a little more blue and white as Bulldogs, not having a stellar year, but you can celebrate in the greatness of Parramatta, Penrith, and other Westie teams doing pretty well. So
I think Bankstown's done well in their last game, and I think that they're coming around, and they're
hope springs eternal.
They're priming up for a really good season. And they're resilient. They're very, very resilient.
They are resilient. Hey, speaking of resilience, the future of Southwest Sydney, you're not only a poetry slammer, you're not only young proud Arab woman, you are also a lawyer working hard with your degrees. How's work shaping up?
It's really good. It's really busy. So I do commercial work, so mainly property matters and like leasing, conveyancing, and then some other kind of commercial work. So
how very poetic that is.
I know. And so for me, I think it's just like right now in this time, I thought it would slow down, but it seems to really be quite busy because people are trying to close deals, and there's a little bit of a dip in the market, so people are taking advantage of that. So it's been a really interesting time for me to be working in this field, and I feel that a lot of my skills are transferable, weirdly. Like a lot of the drafting and the negotiation skills that I'm picking up in my practice help me be a better arts organizer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know in your first major law job in a big city white establishment firm, you described yourself as a one-person diversity project, ticking about 7 boxes, young, female, slim, everything. It was great. I'm conscious of what we're going through around the world, particularly and more recently here with Black Lives Matter and the minority protests which pandemic has brought forward.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting that the first time in Sydney with big, serious issue, it wasn't about a matter of religion. It was simply a pandemic in which we all were suffering in the same way. Do you see parallels? I mean, obviously a lot of rap music, public art, spoken word poetry I've been watching an element of the protests in America. Where do you think that sense, you run an artistic outlet, but it's also, in many ways a social movement, a protest movement, if they listen to a lot of the poetry. Do you think this will influence the art form we'll see on a monthly basis at BPS? The poets, writers writing about this sort of massive social transformation at the moment?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. I think that, so we've been running virtual slams, and people have still been having the opportunity to share some poetry, but it's not the same. The community and the sense of social togetherness that you get when you're physically in one space together, it can't be matched. Yeah, so I think when we get back to some kind of normalcy with our slams, we will be seeing a lot more of that kind of people touching on those topics, because a lot of people in the Bankstown poetry community are really passionate about equity and passionate about social justice. These things are necessarily part of the narrative because, they're political issues, and most of these communities are politicized. So they, if they're not experiencing it, then they can empathize so much. And it's really important for them to be able to express their views on that. So I think that we'll definitely see a shift in the kinds of poems and the kinds of reactions that people are going to be expressing and putting forward in the next few months. And I think more broadly, people are starting to find that they have a bit of power. And so, even on the weekend, there were some huge protests all around Australia, and the Supreme Court had initially barred those protests, and people said, you know what, we don't care, we're going anyway. And at the 11th hour, they ended up legalising those protests. And
the
so,
lawyers came to the rescue at the end, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, but people were already there, and they didn't care, and they were facing potentially, COVID-related fines of $1,000 each,
including almost all of my family. One of which didn't wear a mask, which I was a bit cranky about, but very proud of them being there otherwise. Hey, conscious of your time, how about let me just go to you as the arts entrepreneur. We're going through with Western Sydney our program of the 3 R's of recovery, reform, and re-engagement. Re-engagement your end. When are you expecting full houses again? On the 4th Tuesday of the month? Is it June? Is it July? When do you think your poets will be back in front of a wonderfully appreciative, interactive audience in the Arts Centre for now, maybe eventually at the university? What's your timing?
So we were thinking in the next few months we might have some kind of lean into working towards having some kind of a crowd, but it won't be a full open house. I don't think...
lead into working towards doesn't sound like a June or July full crowd.
No. So maybe first off we'll start with having the poets there live and do a live stream, and then potentially have a bit of a crowd there. I'm just really conscious that while we're doing really well in Australia with our numbers with coronavirus, there's still a risk there, and I don't want to put anyone at risk. And really everyone's talking about a second wave. I'm no health expert. I don't know, what's going to happen, or I can't even anticipate how the next few months are going to pan out. But, the safety of our patrons and our community members is the first priority. So
it's hard to do poetry slam. It's hard to do poetry slam through a mask as well. I appreciate it's an artistic art form that probably requires an unveiling more than anything. Yeah. Hey, let's finish up with what do slam poets do in isolation? What do you watch on Netflix? What are you cooking at home? How did life in lockup affect Sara Mansour?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing I realized was how much I missed my slams and I missed the poetry community. I kind of felt this sense of emptiness, and I was like, is that hunger? No, it's not. It's the slam. I really miss that. I really, it's weird. Like, you can not be able to go out to restaurants and not be able to go out to shopping centres and do various things, but there's that sense of community. I think because it's been there every single month for 7 years. So that's something that really struck a chord with me, how much I miss the slam. And so I filled the void with The Office. I finished all 9 seasons. And
UK or US?
Oh, US.
Oh, no, I'm a UK guy. I'm more Ricky Gervais type, but
okay.
Steve Carell's pretty good too.
Yeah, Steve Carell's. Everyone kept telling me after I started and I started, raving about The Office, the US Office, that the UK one is better and more crude. So I think I'm going to have to pick that up after.
Well put.
And also Dirty Money on Netflix.
Dirty Money? Okay, I'll take that as advice and check that one out. Well, thanks for your time. Particularly thank you for sharing The Rupture. If that wasn't its name, I've just named it with it. I said a poetic art form with a pandemic is rare. To you, we were so proud. The inaugural winners, Bankstown Poetry Slam, you and Ahmed, your co-founder, the Pemulwuy Prize, presented by then Prime Minister Turnbull to you for the incredible advocacy. They're helping Western Sydney and South West Sydney kids find their voice, which is a remarkable legacy that you have, my love. It is just tremendous. And the ultimate honour I can pay you is to help join me in wishing you the best. I mean, of course, the Earls will win the premiership, but let's hope the Doggies make it to the finals to go with it as well. But,
may the best team win.
We will. Thank you very much, Sara Mansour. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye-bye.